The Mandalorian has a big spoiler. Now, there's a lot of, things that have been kind of circling around, but has been confirmed basically that there is a big spoiler in the first episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah. Now, what I found interesting about this is that they're saying that it's this massive, like, Star Wars universe spoiler. Like, it's going to take something that is, I guess, like a cornerstone of the whole Star Wars universe and just
flip it.
Yeah, it's going to completely blow us away. So it sounds like that this is kind of like an I Am Your Father level thing. And look, as you guys know, The Mandalorian's coming out in a couple of days. So we only have like 2 days. And it's like on November 12th, which is on this coming Wednesday, like I said, 2 days, right? 6 a.m. is when Disney Plus is going to basically hit, and everybody can download all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we all think the spoiler is going to be?
Well, a lot of people are thinking it's going to have something to do with Django. I mean, not Django, Boba Fett.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people say that. Of course, some people...
See, I haven't actually delved into...
A lot of people think that that's Boba Fett.
Then what's Boba Fett?
The Mandalorian. Although a lot of people... But of course, Favreau and Filoni have basically said it's not Django. I mean, I keep saying Django.
I know.
Boba Fett. But
a lot of people... Ewan McGregor also said that he knew nothing about the Obi-Wan series, too, and we see how that went.
Exactly. So, you kind of have to, like... But it would be cool because then it's like, well, he fell into the thing in the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. So if he got out, now he's like, okay, the Empire, everything, the galaxy's kind of changed already because the Empire no longer exists. So now he kind of has to like go back to his whole bounty hunting thing and try to.
Yeah. You know what? Well, I'm thinking about it too. I have to give credit where credit's due. This topic basically came from a good friend of mine and also one of our longtime listeners, Tim Grizankowski. He basically came up to me, because we were on a bowling league together. And he came up. He kind of reminded me of our other good friend, Patrick McIntosh, right? A lot of times, like, Patrick does this. Tim's done this a couple of times. Where it's kind of like he came up and he was just like, hey, are you guys going to talk about this big spoiler on The Mandalorian? And I'm like, what big spoiler on The Mandalorian? I didn't really... He's like, yeah, it's like been all over, whatever. So sure enough, he went and bowled his frame or whatever. And I, did what everybody does, went on Google and, typed in Mandalorian spoiler. Sure enough, man, there's like...
like a whole
7
thread.
articles.
Yep.
And again, kind of like what I do with Patrick. I'm like, how did I miss this? Like, I'm supposed to be, and we were all joking about it. Me, another one of our longtime listeners and recent YouTube subscribers, Darren Kane, we're just like laughing about it going, you know what? I'm supposed to be like this host of this Star Wars podcast show, and I don't even know like half of this stuff is coming out, right?
Yeah, well, some things just pop up. I mean, if you just look at stuff.
In my defense, I think it came up that day. Like, I think it was that afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, because that happens to me too. Like, you'll send me something, I'm like, huh? And then I'm like, oh, like, I find out it's only been
co-host. I mean, that's just funny. Like, Patrick, man, he's notorious for that stuff. Like, he messages on our Facebook all the time, and he's just like, hey, did you hear, what do you guys think of, whatever? And I'm like, I didn't even know it happened.
Yeah. But
Or, did you hear about the latest whatever? Nope. Why don't you tell me about it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what we want you all to do, honestly.
We love that, though. Yeah, I mean, let us know. I mean...
There's something we haven't covered or
there's something we haven't covered or whatever. Let us know what...
We're here. But yeah, I think in The Mandalorian, I don't think it's going to be the Boba Fett thing, though. I don't
either. I honestly think that would take away from it.
Yeah. But a lot of people have been saying, like, Mara Jade is actually kind of supposed to be...
Okay, now that I could see.
Yeah, I heard they're supposed to be retconning some stuff.
Well, it's got to be something from Legends.
Yeah, it's definitely something from Legends.
So, I mean, I'm thinking it's either something from the Unknown Regions.
Some people might say Thrawn might be. Yeah, Thrawn might be,
could do it. But here's the thing, though, and this is why I'm like, well, maybe, but they're saying that this is like the nuclear bomb of spoilers or something. I mean, this is like a huge, I guess, I don't want to say like life-changing, but I mean, it's like a
Star Wars universe changing.
Yeah, it's going to change your whole perspective on maybe the main thread or a couple of other things in the whole Star Wars universe. And I was just trying to think of.
Well, I've heard also that we might actually hear about Snoke.
Well,
in this,
Snoke could be something that
which would be a big thing because everybody's been wondering.
Well, we know where he's coming from, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that might be, or we find out who he is and where he comes from and kind of.
Well, it's got to be because this takes place, what is it, like 5 years after Return of the Jedi or something?
Yeah.
So.
Because like I said, the galaxy is in shambles. And you got to think about it, like the galaxy is in shambles. The empire has fallen. Of course, you got those who were in the empire, the admirals and generals. Of course, they're still trying to maintain their control over their respective systems and things of that nature. But they're losing that battle on a lot of different fronts.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so now you have somebody that's like, okay, well, who's going to restore order? And that would be the perfect time to introduce Snoke.
The only thing is, though, maybe. So, The Mandalorian's going to take place approximately 20 to 25 years before The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's conceivable that the First Order starts around that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's probably
in a way,
up to that, though.
Well, here's my thing. I think, and I mentioned this to Tim and Darren and everybody that I was bowling with because they're basically pressing me like, okay, well, what do you think? And I'm thinking, I don't know. I just got the news.
Got out 10 minutes ago.
Right. I really don't know. But let me think about this. So I think I mentioned to him that night that I think it might be something in the Aftermath trilogy, the novels, because Aftermath takes place in that time period. It takes place like right after Return of the Jedi, and it goes up pretty close to Force Awakens. Not quite to that point, but it gets close. So they could be bringing in something there. Now, I don't really remember anything that would be, that would actually change your whole views on the events of the entire Star Wars saga.
Mm-hmm.
But, it could have its roots in there because it definitely talks about Palpatine's contingency plans. It sets up a lot of people that are setting up the First Order. So naturally, you can cover that transition because I think that that's one of the things that everybody in the Star Wars fandom wants to know. It's like, well, okay, I get it. The First Order is kind of like the new Empire, but how did it transition from the Empire to the First Order? Why didn't the people who were in charge of the Empire just restart the Empire?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think that's a good place for Snoke to come in because...
Well, they do have to... I will admit this. They do have to explain at some point, whether it's a novel, comic, maybe we get a little blurb in The Rise of Skywalker, whatever, but we got to know where Snoke came from and what his place was.
Well, I think that would be the biggest thing, though, because
I agree.
If you do that in The Mandalorian, that's a story arc that stretches, like, okay, well then, I don't know if we'll see, we might hear about, Han Solo, Kylo. Mm-hmm. We might hear about these people, like what they're doing on the, outskirts or whatever. And I think that would be a good place where, like I say, for you to start to establish, okay, because Snoke has to rally everybody. Everybody has to find somebody to kind of bring them all together again. No different than the Resistance with Leia. Like, okay, Leia had to bring everybody back together and say, hey, we have this threat. So now it's like, okay, what's going to happen with this huge empire? somebody's got to take control because we're so used to having control. And so when we see The Force Awakens, of course, the First Order has already been established. They got ships. Everybody who knows Han knew who Snoke was at the time already. So obviously he has been around prior to. We just don't know how far.
Well, I'll tell you what I love about that theory is the fact that you remember how we've always been talking about that they can explain a lot of this stuff, but the problem is that novels, comics, not everybody reads those.
Right.
The cool thing about it is they've got this new television format.
That's
now.
a flagship show already.
That's a flagship show that they could actually get even casual fans. Like, people will watch it. This is the perfect medium
exactly
to go into these kind of details because it's not basically so outside like the comics and novels where you would only get like some really hardcore fans doing it. So you could actually cover more of these things. And
you bring up a very good, very, very good point because I think that everybody's been saying, I think this is the future of Star Wars in a sense because you can essentially explain and you can do way more character development over an arc of 8 episodes and that are an hour. So basically you got an 8-hour movie.
Right.
As opposed to 2.5 hours where you got to try to introduce all these characters, get them on a mission. What's the goal? What's the objective? How do you complete it?
And here's the other thing that you can look at too is the fact that, you know, even people that aren't really into Star Wars, right? You know, they're subscribing to Disney Plus. Maybe they like the Marvel stuff or, you know, maybe they just want to see Disney's incredible catalog of movies or something. You know, they might go, you know, I'm not really into Star Wars and but you know what? I'll check out this Mandalorian show. Why not? Right. This is where you can bring in future fans, you know, somebody that maybe never really cared about Star Wars all of a sudden becomes a fan. Like,
and it ties everything in too, because like if I'm going to the movies, if you're just a casual fan where, like you said, you just go to the movies and watch it and like, all right, I saw Force Awakens, I saw Last Jedi, I'm waiting on Rise of Skywalker. Okay, well, who's the funny, Freddy Krueger looking dude in the chair?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I don't know anything about him. I'm not about to go out and read books,
Yeah, right, and get the whole backstory. I mean, it's so funny too how.
But now you got this show, or shows that are forthcoming that will fill in those gaps for you, and it's like, okay, so now those casual fans plus the hardcore fans, like everybody's like, and it gives something for people to talk about out at the water cooler. No different than, when you're watching Game of Thrones. And I think that's what left a big void in people right now too, is that, Game of Thrones was the highest rated, show for years. Power on Stars is the next show that they kind of competed with Game of Thrones. That's about to come to an end in January. So now what's going to be the show that everybody's going to Empire on Fox? That's done. So what's going to be the next
water cooler show? Exactly.
And the Mandalorian has that. It has the makings of everything because it has that Lone Ranger Old West vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the trailer, man, I mean, it's just like, all right, it's gunslinging. It's probably going to have some romantic stuff going on in there.
It's Star Wars, but it doesn't.
Without the lightsabers.
Yeah, it would appeal to people that maybe have a negative stigma towards Star Wars. And this is really funny, too, because I don't know if this has happened, but have you ever taken somebody to see any of the Star Wars movies and you're just bewildered by the comments that they make? Like, how did you even get this out of that? I mean, they don't know. It's like, were you watching the same movie as I was? I mean, how could you not understand this? Like, they'll have these, weird, I guess...
Primarily women.
Yes.
That's who I go to the movie.
Yes, and that's basically...
Yeah, that's what we're saying, but not saying.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have these odd viewpoints and they're... It's like, how did you even get that out of this? Don't you understand what... How could you misunderstand this? How could and that's the thing. And I think that maybe... these TV series like The Mandalorian, like the upcoming Obi-Wan, Cassian Andor, the rumored Darth Maul series that's coming out. They announced a few actually, but it's going to be interesting to see where the future of Star Wars goes. They'll always have the movies. Star Wars is definitely a film type of experience. You got to experience it in the theaters.
Definitely.
But I really think that a lot of the foundation of Star Wars could be rooted in these streaming series. You know, television seems to be where they're spending a lot of their time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, to your first point, as far as, you know, dealing with people who've never seen, or when you take them to go see a Star Wars movie and they're just kind of like, okay, what the heck is this? And I don't get it.
Yeah, they'll just have these like odd interpretations of the events, and you're just like, no, that's not it at all. How could you? Did you watch the same movie as I did?
Right.
Here, let's watch it together again, and this time I'll talk you through it. You know, I'll coach you.
Yeah, exactly. It's that TED Talk thing or something.
Yes.
But, yeah, I mean, I think for people who really don't understand Star Wars, or who really aren't, well, one, you have to get, most women aren't really into science fiction anyway. Science fiction or science fantasy.
Honestly, I think more than anything, that's why you see all these female-led characters in Star Wars now, because Lucasfilm is like, let's bring in female fans.
Well, I think they're trying to bring in female fans, female perspective on things. And I think that there's stories that you can tell. One, of course, it empowers young girls. Like, they see a Rey and they're like, yeah, you know, I want to be, you know, a hero. You know, like, it doesn't have to be Wonder Woman or all the time. It could be somebody in this particular world who, like, if you are you know, there's no different than Star Trek when they did Captain Janeway. You know, like, that was like, okay, everyone's like, whoa, a female captain? I don't know. But then she comes out and you're like, hey, she's pretty cool. You know, so I think that's where.
Well, I think that's the biggest. Moving. I think the biggest compliment that I've always been able to pay in that regard anyway is when, you know, they're trying to make a big deal. Okay, it's a female this or a female that. It's like, if you forget and they're just that character, you know, like Rey is just Rey. I don't think about the whole, oh, she's a female hero.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, no, she's Rey.
As long as I can believe in her and who this character is, I'm sold.
Yeah, that's about the only thing that, you know, I really hope The Rise of Skywalker kind of goes into why Rey is as powerful as she is, because I got to admit, man, I've been having some issues. Like, I'm right on the edge where I can hang on to it. I can suspend my disbelief enough that I can overlook it. Like, I can overlook my issues, but they are there. Well, I mean, but it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It just has to just her character. No, it could have been a guy, and it's like, okay, why is he this?
Well, and that's, it could have been Finn, and you'd be like, okay, well, who the heck?
Well, and that's basically it. Exactly. It has nothing to do with the fact that, you know, it's not a gender thing. It's, but I mean, that's what I'm saying is that other than that, I don't think of her Jyn Erso, same thing. Even Princess Leia, I never, you know, and that would have been when it was a lot more rare to see, you know, because, I mean, let's face it, by the time we had the character of Rey, you know, we've had, like, female assassins running around and, you know, beating up everybody in sight. You've had, you know, look, 24 had a lot of female villains that were, you know, beating the crap out of all the guys. And
even the conversation you and I had one day in the studio, and we brought up Cynthia Rothrock.
Yeah. Yeah. I do remember.
So, I mean, you know, we've had, like, you know, female action heroes all the way from Pam Grier to, you know, I mean, all types of stuff.
And the Mandalorian's got plenty of female
MMA fighters. I mean,
so, I mean, you know, we're going to see a lot of that stuff. And I think that that's a good thing.
Definitely.
But, you know, once again, I don't necessarily think that, I don't think that it's necessarily like this whole gender equality thing as much as I think they were brought in to attract the female fans.
True.
Simply because, like you said, Star Wars just, I mean, everybody was into it as far as a pop culture thing, but I think guys are the ones that are really like more into Star Wars than women. Like, guys tend to be more obsessive with it.
Yeah, no different than our superheroes and stuff like anything else. I mean,
but if you think about it, though, that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe in particular has done absolutely right. Is like women are every bit as obsessed with it.
Exactly.
Of course, it's because you have all these, like, you know, shirtless hero guys that are all, buffed out or whatever.
Chris Evans shirtless and
you can understand why. It's kind of like, look, in the 70s, guys weren't watching Charlie's Angels because they thought it was a really good, or Baywatch, even though I actually like Baywatch's stories, but I digress.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I did. I thought it was a really cool show. I mean, it wasn't. I know how that always looks or sounds or what. And every time I bring up Baywatch, everybody's like, "Really, dude? Come on!" It's like, no way did you think that this cheesy thing was. But I did. I really did think. Like, I love the whole vibe of the show.
You know what this sounds like? This sounds like Austin Powers. Like, honestly, it's not my.
Yeah, I know, and I know how it sounds.
Right. I know
it looks, and if you're watching this on YouTube, but I mean, it's one of those things that it's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think it's really going to have something to do with because what I heard is it has something to do with the sequel.
Oh, yeah, the spoiler thing. I was like, what were we even talking about? Yeah.
I know.
You know what? It could be.
But I honestly think it has something to do with Snoke. That's just my guess.
It has to be. I mean, the thing that's kind of funny about this is ever since Tim brought it up, and every time I think about it, I'm like, you know what? For the first time, I absolutely don't know what this could be.
Well, that's how we felt about The Force Awakens. We didn't know what that was going to be either.
Well, but I mean, the thing that kills me about this is the fact that it's like it's a spoiler, but it's supposed to affect the whole, like, the way that you're viewing the whole thing. And I can't imagine what they would be revealing, number one. And what would they be revealing in the context of The Mandalorian? That's what's going to be weird.
The only thing that will suck is that we see it and we still don't get it. What was it?
You know what? I thought about that too. Like, what if it went over our heads?
Yeah.
We're like, did they not put it in there or what?
Well, you know what, though? If I'm not mistaken, the first episode, it's a two-parter.
Well, what they're doing is
it's 2 episodes.
So the one comes out, it's not Wednesday, it's Tuesday.
The other one comes out Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
So tomorrow is the debut of the first one. And then Friday, we get the rest.
Right. So you got to figure out, is it the debut or which one has a spoiler, the first or the second?
I think it's the...
Gotcha.
Uh-huh. Very good. No, I think it's the first.
Okay. The very first one. Okay.
But what about you guys? What do you think this massive spoiler is going to be? You have basically 24 hours to let us know. Because, we always release these at 6 a.m. on Monday. So 24 hours, leave in the comments section what do you think it's going to be. And you know what?
I wish we could put the 24 counter on there.
Yeah, I know. Next week, we'll probably talk about it.
Yep, definitely. We have to.
Yeah, we'll have to. I mean, it'll probably be like a Cantina segment or whatever, but we will talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, unless it's some like mind-blowing thing that we have to make
a special one.
Yeah, some special thing, but, we'll get there.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.